Mortal Engines. Now, you saw this before I did, okay? Again, I saw this in the cinema store last weekend because it was previewing from last weekend, although it theoretically opens today. Adapted from the novel by Philip Reeve, which I confess I haven't read. Have you?
Yes.
And have you read all four of them?
No, just the first one.
Okay, so you were familiar with the story before you saw the film.
And Philip Reeve is a fantastic creator of worlds,
Okay.
into which you disappear with great alacrity.
And is the book brilliant?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Absolutely brilliant.
So this is directed by Christian Rivers, but produced by Peter Jackson, with a screenplay by Jackson, Fran Walsh, and Philip Boyne, so he's regular collaborators. Story is, and it's quite complex, so correct me if I get any of these details wrong. After this sort of quasi-apocalyptic war, humanity is regrouped. They now live in mobile cities, basically cities which get up and roam around the wastelands, eating other cities, devouring other cities under a principle known as municipal Darwinism.
Which is a fantastic phrase.
It's a fantastic phrase. The Anti-Traction League have developed. They are sort of the the counter to all of this. They want
freedom fighters.
The freedom fighters, but they want they want to settle. London is on the rampage, going across these lands looking for towns for cities to eat. And when you say London's on the rampage, it's literally like there is this huge big thing which has got St Paul's here and bits of architecture that you recognise, and it's moving around on these huge, great big rollers. It catches a city whose population includes Hester Shaw, who wants to assassinate Thaddeus Valentine. She teams up with Tom, played by Robert Sheehan, and together they flee London into the great hunting ground. Here's a clip.
No! I've got you.
Tom! Tom!
Look at me. Ask him why he murdered my mother. No! No!
It's not your fault.
She was saying the craziest things, and then she's just...
What did she say, Tom?
She said you murdered her mother.
Murder. That's an ugly word. I'm sorry you had to hear that.
Oh, I should go.
Yeah, you should.
Me, Hugo Weaving, murder her mother? Surely not.
But all I can think of when he says that murder isn't ugly, all I can think of is a riot ist unugly from Young Frankenstein.
Oh, okay.
So,
Anyway, that was peak Hugo Weaving.
Peak Hugo Weaving, wasn't it? He was enjoying himself. So, as you would expect, the film has spectacle to spare. Peter Jackson was on the programme. How long ago was it now?
Yeah, 3 weeks or
3 weeks
so,
ago.
Yeah.
Because obviously he is a guiding light in the production. He's a co-writer of the script and the producer. The problem for me is I don't think the spectacle is enough. I remember Guillermo del Toro saying that one of the biggest challenges with Pacific Rim was making the kaiju and the robots look big, making them have a sense of being massive. And he had this whole argument with the studio about whether 3D miniaturized things. And these towns do look massive. I mean, there is no question that they look absolutely huge. And at their very best, they have something of the weird charm of the Studio Ghibli films, like of Laputa or of Howl's Moving Castle. You get that same sense of, look at that huge, great big expansive thing moving across a wasteland, and it does genuinely seem properly big. At the other end, however, it can sometimes be reduced to Transformers with towns. I mean, basically big towns hitting each other. And I think that problem is exaggerated because the characters themselves are not that well drawn. And it's tempting to say, well, maybe the cast aren't making the most of it. Hugo Weaving is having a lot of fun there, but it's tempting to say, well, maybe it's a performance issue. But actually, I think it comes down to writing. I think it comes down to the way in which the script portrays those characters. It is significant that when Shrike appears, who is this character who is it's from the army of the undead, basically, isn't it? It's like it's regenerated character.
Half corpse, half machine.
Half corpse, half machine, who initially is introduced as a kind of Terminator-like figure. but then we discover has a really interesting connection with our heroine and has a proper character arc. And in the moments in which we see those two characters interacting, you start to think of things like, Janae Caro or Terry Gilliam and that sort of, mechanical humanity, dolls, mannequins, all that sort of stuff. And that's when the movie becomes the most fascinating. That's when it kind of really comes alive. And there is a good 30 minutes of that, which I really liked. But as soon as he's gone, the movie goes back to being this strange kind of, the best way of describing it is that when you see London lumbering across the wasteland, that's kind of what the film's like. There's a whole bunch of things in it that you recognise, because there's a bit of Star Wars in there as well. Didn't you think towards the final act it goes a bit Star Wars?
Well, yes, plus also the whole thing about, the evil empire and the rogues out there who are trying to fight back against the municipal Darwinists.
So more than a little Star Wars. And as I said, the Transformers thing, and to some extent bits of Pacific Rim. So you look at this thing and it's got things in it that you recognise, and it's moving in a strange, sort of lumbering, cumbersome way that occasionally is really sort of quite fascinating, but a lot of the time just looks sort of like it's plodding from one thing to the next. And the main problem was that whenever I wasn't in the company of Shrike, I found myself emotionally unengaged or disengaged. So I ended up looking at it thinking, well, I'm impressed by the scale, I'm impressed by the size, but that in itself is not enough to carry the narrative. And I did find it disappointing in the end.
The pair at the heart of it, she's Hester Shaw, can't remember his name.
Tom,
I thought he was feeble, but Hester Shaw I liked, but
she's good, but again, you almost feel that the role could have been more.